Okay, I think we're live. Who knows? Oh, bring that a little closer. Okay, welcome. So today we're going to talk about um, starseeds, wanderers, walk-ins, and all that fun stuff. Great big fun topic. Really excited about it. If you guys have thoughts and want to say hello and all that, leave that in the chat, and I'm going to get to the chat after I go through my list of things that kind of come through that I want to try and hit on, and then we can get into just questions. And I want this to feel very open. I'll be sharing some stuff that's about my own personal journey, just to show primarily an example for this discussion is going to be primarily what I would call like allegory, metaphoric, uh, because it's mythos. It's the story of life itself. So it's all very real, but metaphysically, there's a whole other structure and way to look at all of this that can be very cold. So to make it more interesting, I think to flavor it this way helps it to be more digestible to the mind. And then if somebody wants to study sort of the metaphysics, they can go to the law of one to get a understanding of how it actually works at a metaphysical level. So first, I'll just say that I'm a walk-in. Um, I don't think I've I don't know if I've actually said that publicly like this or not. Um, but I've been pretty clear with people that were really close to me. Like, yeah, that's what happened. Um, and so I can speak to the experience of it, and as well as the like what to look for, and what star seeds are, and how some of these arrangements take place, in case people are interested. And I think people are wanting to know, like, yeah, okay, I feel like I'm from the stars, but I'm seeing a lot of content and things, and it's starting to be a lot of like just the same old struggling almost to activate the DNA and to all the things, right? And I'm not trying to make fun. I'm just trying to highlight some of the um, approaches that is just a lot of doing, right? Which doing is, interesting, but doing is the part of this story. And when we transcend the story, we can pop out of the doing and see the story a little differently, open ourselves up to so much more vastness. And some of the things that tether us here sort of anchors into our underworld, or our, in magic, we would call it Malkuth. It's the kingdom. But the kingdom starts off as a very hellish place, typically on this particular planet at this time. We're born into essentially a hellish environment, and Malkuth, which is where the dragon lives, is fed. Everyone has this inner dragon. It may not appear to be a dragon for you, but I'm going to talk about taming this dragon as well, how that goes about. So for some, it may feel like something akin to Fenrir, the big wolf, or a lion or something. It's usually a big, ferocious type of animal that one would be a little bit cautious to go approach and tame. But it actually represents the entire sort of animalistic part of us in the red energy center. So there's both the metaphysical component of it that's very scientific and kind of boring, if you ask me. At least now. There was a time that I was very into that stuff. But now I'm coming into noticing all the story as my own Akash opens up, and as yours will, as all of ours does. We begin to pull in all this frequency and vibration, begin to feel more and more and more, get more and more sort of in tune with everything. Thank you again for joining. So excited for everyone. Really appreciate you taking your time. If any questions or anything like that, again, just leave them in the comments and chat, or just experiences as well. You're going to probably have like, oh, that's interesting. I had similar experiences. And that's kind of the point of it. So just to be an example, I guess. It's been impressed upon me pretty clearly that I'm meant to be an example of one who just says, yeah, that's what this is. I'm an alien or whatever. I remember actually when I first popped in, so to speak, the I noticed that the language alien, I was like, I don't like that one. Like that means other than me. Like it means not part of. It's like separate. And I was like, Blech. Yet I saw all the love for aliens, so I was kind of like, I don't know. And so a lot of us go through this stage where like we feel like an alien, literally, quite literally feel like an alien. It's called alienation, truly is what that is. Um, but the wanderer or the walk-in will feel that almost immediately. They have to pass through the veil as well still. So you can have Sean, for example, was a star-seeded soul, got to a certain point and said, we're done here. That's enough of this. We opened up the vessel for another to come, which was named Master Ka. So Master Ka is essentially also known as the Holy Spirit. Although, when Master Ka first arrives, he looks like a wizard, sort of, like a long-haired elven type wizard. And basically, that was how I got introduced to the order I'm always talking about. I haven't learned anything from a human, truly. I've read human books, of course, to essentially get into the nomenclature and the mythos that stamped the souls here. And because as Walken, we inhabit and take over the ongoing karmic whatever is happening, whatever has been planned out, we take that on. And then we operate from usually from an expanding lens. It's the same with starseeds, but essentially a lot of starseeded souls. I talked about this in the soul seeds or starseed contract. They say, you know, this is enough, and they're gone. And I'm not saying they take their life. I was very clear as well in that it's not about that. They don't take their life. That's not the way that this is done. It's essentially a release of that soul, and another completely cohesive swap occurs. And it's Dr. Shakina Judah, I believe, wrote a paper that was recently sent to me by my best friend, Dr. Tassel. So she sent it over to me, and I was just reading it, and I was like, yeah, this person knows exactly. And Shakina means Divine Mother. Dr. Divine Mother has it pretty much bang on. The only thing that I would talk about more with her, some of her work, is she says it's 12 into the 144. And these are just various strictures. So it's what it's truly is 3, 6, 9, repeating. And then the 3 goes up to make 12, which is 3, right? 1, 2, in numerology, 3. So it's just this cycling of 3, 6, and 9, which is what Tesla was talking about. But ostensibly it does appear as if 12, but that continues dimensionally, right? All the way up forever. So she's speaking in a kind of the limited framework of just the mind, body, spirit complex that we see on Earth. There's more to that, vastly more, that we don't generally have access to, but I think that's sort of changing, actually. And so the dragon also, just back to the dragon also represents the kundalini or the serpent, right? Like it's our fury and passion, essentially, as well as our instinct. So it's like both of that. And our instinctual passions are kind of usually the most ones that get us into the most trouble, right? Or our instinctual furies, which are unconscious demons within us, essentially. Whether passion or fury unconscious, that way it's a something we need to look at, because what are we doing? What's the motivation of our activity? And when we're trying to figure out our motivation, a really, really good way I like to advise people is because we're literally learning how to be walking gods. Not gods among men as if we are different. Walking God, all up and away, right? All. That's what this is. And so when we're trying to find our place, we have to look at how we were templated. Like what did that soul that was incarnate template itself with? And if you wonder about walk-ins, I don't know if that's possible. Just hear me out. What happens when a baby is birthed? It is a walk-in soul. It is the same thing exactly. What would make that strange for that to occur? You know, and even in Hindu, or I guess Eastern, they would call them bodhisattva, I believe is the word. And that word feels right for me. It just feels totally right. It's just that the frame's released by the personality for spirit to inhabit. Then the spirit has to learn again how to like even be here, you know, play the game, so to speak, be of the people, be of the world that isn't like, doesn't even know what they are yet. And then, you know, obviously for me, Master Ka, that's sort of the spirit that took over. That's what he does. And I say he, but it's more like a woman, to be honest. But he looks like a dude. So it's weird. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing with him. Her. But that's who gives me most of my intel, so to speak. That's where I get everything. Master Ka is part of what's called the Emerald Guardianship, which is the guardian of the planetary entity, and what it guards the green ray of the planetary entity as far as protector from, I think, 7th density. One of 24 entities, as far as I know. And he's alluded to that in some of the channeling that I've done. Some of it's probably public, some of it not. I'm not sure. But anyways, just to give some, again, mythos, illusion, story, fantasy, right? But that's what everything actually is. And actually, these connections, when they start to really like anchor in, and if they have for you, that's perfect. I mean, that's the whole reason that we're talking about this. It really isn't about Sean. I always repeat that. It's probably annoying. But there's no way to please everybody, right? That's what happens with God's children, including me. We're never pleased totally, are we? Otherwise, we would stop doing anything. We would just chill. And that's why we have that displeasure of things. It's that actual impetus to do something about it, or at least think our way out of it, transcend it somehow. Often doing stuff about things is actually kind of a trap in itself, and you can just go, the thing that I was really hanging on to can just kind of go now, I guess, because it's going anyway, seems to be going, so it's gone. I mean, so Master Ka is what helped me tame the dragon. The dragon, one day I'll introduce you to the dragon. Right now, he's just sleeping. She's just sleeping. But it's really interesting that as this opens up, now I have these, the kingdom starts to form. We start to build the temple of our mythos. And this is just how we essentially emotionally and cognitively interact with the world of the ethers or the energies inside of us. That's real. It's truly real. All real. It's just a different plane of reality. That's sourced all within. But then there's also a frame that's like outside that you can start to get into. This is when you get into 5D consciousness. You start to realize there's all these beings and things going on, and there's like galactic wars and stuff. Whoa, right? And it gets very exciting. And so I just caution to go into these things, try to being balanced, trying to look for the truth, trying to notice that this is all of this is a narrative of expansion into self and the soul's story and the imprinting of the soul, and then what it's going through, what narrative it wanted to play out in service to its mother, father, God. It chose this. And if you want to hear about that part and haven't seen it, I recommend House of Mirrors stream I did recently. It goes into the birth canal process, the birthing of a soul into then an incarnate form, and the boxing of consciousness that way, how it fragments. But tried to say it in a more eloquent way, of course. So taming the dragon is done primarily, I'm going to write probably a book on this or something, but it's done primarily, or the serpent, by seeing it, finally, by actually looking into its eyes, or eye. It's called the eye. You look into the eye and walk right into it. Um, and from then on, reality will never look the same again. This is sort of the innermost depth of your soul, essentially, that you're trying to uncover as a seeker of truth of yourself. And that conflict and confrontation of self to self is essentially your deepest demon you could think of, right? That's essentially what we're kind of, but it's about falling in love with that. And then learning how to work with that fury, passion, and drive that into something beautiful and meaningful to you and to people, and that's expanding. That's usually the goal, and you see it like in like the heavy metal bands and screaming and all the fury coming out, and like even the band Dragon Force is one of my favorite bands, and you can hear the wanderer in their lyrics, heroes from the sky to come and help the world, and right, dragonborn. That's what they're essentially dropping hints for, and I don't know what they know or what they've seen, but they're geniuses. And actually, some of those songs remind me of anthems of ancient times, like things we used to sing about, like to the gods. We used to sing these things, and they're basically rehearsing them in this metal format. They couldn't possibly know them. It's weird to have that recognition and just be like, "Rrr." Anyways, so it's about meeting that dragon, and I like to recommend people use the shamanic practice of this with the archetypes. And what's the dragon archetype? It's power, truth, but also like passion, fury, death, really, right? Death is the king of this world, is it not? Claims it, right? He claims it is. This is the confrontation of self that happens in the abyss. After, or it could also be talked about as like sort of the Ouroboros or the Leviathan. It's about like noticing this, that you have this beautiful power there that you have to be responsible for and love, and then direct with your conscious effort. Because if you don't, who knows what'll happen? That's when it bubbles up, and then something blah happens, right? That's what you see in men, that like they get cut off, and the next thing you know, they're out of the car ready to like pummel someone. Um, that's what's happened. It's been my entire life happened, and now this, right? Now this, rah! It's bananas. Like, it's literally monkey work, right? Bananas, actual monkeys. I love it. So we see that all over the place, and we see it in women, as well, and different ways. We also see this in the loving, passionate ways of Christ. We have both of these within us. So what we do is we tame this dragon, and we start to establish what our own, I've often mentioned the Council of Nine as above, so below, right? We actually have an inner Council of Nine as well, as a Council of Nine that governs, sort of guides the sphere, and it goes up. That's what it does. So you actually have that within you. So you actually can sort of observe varying gods and mythos and be like, this resonates with, oh, I think that's one of my inner councils then. So like some for me are like Odin, it's one. Jesus, Yeshua ben Joseph, Latui, Ra. These are some that sit on my own council, you could say. And I let different beings come in and sit in my kingdom with me. Is how it's actually a temple. It's called Solomon's Temple. You invite them in, have a seat. Let's talk about it. Let's get to know each other. And some of that happens through research on maybe the internet or something, but lots of it actually happens through dream and through connection with story of your life into their story, and how that parallels, and how maybe for me, so for example, truth has just been my personal pursuit for most of my life, and I knew that I had to pretend. Like Sean's life was, I had to pretend that that wasn't the case because it just bothered everyone. To be truthful, it just bothered everyone around me. I was annoying, and I didn't mean to be. I'm still annoying like that, and I don't mean to be. And I know it. The truth is often annoying, right? Isn't it? Um, and so we have these like soul templatings, and lots of us have these hero dynamics about finding someone and saving them, or finding the lost soul that they couldn't find, or these types of dynamics. And these often result in what we often call twin flame type things here. There's also other types of twin flames that are like different things of like maybe the same higher self drops the same soul in, or two souls of the separate. I wouldn't know about that exactly. It could be sort of framed anyway. Um, and the trick with that stuff is that uh, the twin flame that's within you is what's trying to be united, and we we see it obviously igniting from the others somehow, and that brings it into us, and it's almost like very palpable and challenging to not try to just get it somehow, um, or we might be kind of terrified of it, for various reasons. It may freak us out, and then we'll say it's because they did this and this and this. They said this, they said that. And, you know, usually in these stages of these relationships, both parties are still navigating the furies and passions I was talking about. They're also known as the Shem angels and the Goetic or Ars Goetia demons. These are 72, 72, and the 144. The balanced harmony of these is the 144,000 frequency that is the consciousness of Christ consciousness, or 5D. So it's sort of like the goal is to balance the furies, which are essentially harpy demons. They if you go down into these depths in the astral or lower astral, you'll hear howling. You'll hear these disharmonic. It sounds like disharmonic angels chorusing, and it's disorienting. You can't tell where they are. It's just all dark. It's like it's a strange experience, and you learn that you shouldn't just pop down there by yourself. You want to bring someone. So I was like, hey, Christ, come on down. And that's what I did. Was I went down there with Christ. And not actually, it wasn't actually I was alone, but it was just the presence of it. It was sort of like I had to go by myself, but just with the presence, almost mirroring the situation here in physical reality, right? So it was sort of like I had my cross with me, so to speak, down there, and could just feel it in me just growing, right? So I was very protected. I could hear the howling, and I was like, these are my children. These are my children howling at me. But these are some of the experiences that start to come about from adapt work and things like that. And I tell these stories to help show it's very normal actually, and we can lead pretty normal lives. Like I lead a fairly, no, it's not normal. I don't know what normal even means anymore. But you know, I'm at peace with it. So that's the goal, right? I think peace, and to be able to look at the world from a lens of like, you know, I'm fine. There's this fury and power in me that I'm fine. Like I couldn't actually be it. You eventually kind of defeat it by taming it, and then the void and the infinite power of the of God becomes into the thing, and it gets bananas. And then at that point, there's just this complete readjustment again. That process for me took me about 3 years. Um, And most magicians will talk about how like this is the only way. It's not true. It's not true. That's their only way. So that's great for them. I think it's beautiful. All of it. All of it is beautiful. There's a lot of doing, though, right? So doing is usually doing because our faith is a little lacking. If you think about Jesus manifesting bread and stuff like that, um, he could do that because he had the faith in it. So there, he wasn't doing anything. It was just appearing because, of course, it would. And so that's sort of where we get to. And I don't embody that. Of course, I'm not manifesting loaves of bread into my hand. Maybe one day. I think I would lose my own mind if that happened right now. So I'm very grateful that there's still a lot of veiling here, because that's the other thing about it is if we penetrate too far, then we lose track of the narrative entirely. We fall into what I just call the void, and we sometimes don't come back from that. And that sounds spooky, right? It's not. It's just actually a bliss. It's a bliss state. They found was it Ramana Maharshi in that cave being kind of bit by rats and things, and I think kids were throwing rocks at him to see if he was alive or something. That's the state, basically. The that state is very alluring, right? So when we're talking about twin flame mirroring, though, I wanted to get into this because we had a lot of people talk. I've had lots and lots of questions about this topic, and they're running away, or like they seem to just be like into really wacky stuff, and I'm just like, I'm not into it. And like they seem to be maybe throwing their life away or something, and like I don't even know how to help them. That's kind of what seems to happen, right? A big part of this awakening process is often just discarding everything in some fashion, and it can be very violent, or it can be like sort of, and when I say violent, I just mean intrusive to the life, like really intrusive, or it can be more gradual. You can show up in so many different ways, and sometimes they for a time just go and do what Eckhart did, right, and just go sit on a bench for a while, and they don't care anymore about these things, so you can imagine if you're someone like me that has children and like is kind of feeling like I don't even know what to do I don't care about any of this stuff. I love my children, care about them. So I guess I have to just try to pretend to care. And that's truly the way that I actually found to come back to really root myself here is through my children. And also they were the gateway for me to be able to see the light and love in everything. The childlike joy and the innocence and the purity of their just love, right? I try to just see everyone like that. If I can't see them like that in the moment, I know it's in there. I know it's in there, and I can see it in the eye. Even if it's a little dull, even if it's a little glazed over, I can see it. And that simple recognition helps people, believe it or not. So that's why I always teach that we try to do this, because it also clears us up. So when we're observing the twin that's doing the thing that we are like, I can't even, they appear possessed, perhaps even, or we feel negative entities are controlling this. Could be like that's the Furies, right? Could also be the passions that are just making the individual act and behave in a way that seems careless of you, of others. Because at that time that they're just, I'm going to do what I want. I don't care what you guys think. And maybe what they want is like not kosher, right? Like it's not super acceptable to people. And it gets wacky. It can get wacky. So that's why I try to actually do these videos, actually, is so that people can notice the wackiness coming up a bit and like cut kind of ground again. Because people kept telling me to ground myself, and I was like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. And I would just float away into, and for me, that was great. But I can see how someone that perhaps doesn't feel as confident as I did would not do so well necessarily. And I did not do very well in many ways. So many ways. I could have done so much better. And it's actually this like experience that helps the higher self or Master Ka understand better how to do this in the future. And he may start to work with others. I don't know of any others. He hasn't really told me. It's probably a surprise. Surprise! We have brothers and sisters. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens at some point. But yeah, let's see if there's any comments. Oh, actually, one last thing. So I wanted to talk briefly about the choice of peace, I call it. It's just the simplest way to choose peace in an altercation of any kind. Or someone's disturbed, someone's upset, any kind. But no, always knowing that I have a line too. Like, I'm still like a being here that, like, what do they say in Islam? I think they say, or over in that area, they say sometimes like follow Allah or trust in Allah, but tie up your camel, I believe is what they say. I apologize if I screwed that up. But it's the same thing, be in the world but not of it. You know, that type of thing. But when you're in the world and not of it, you still have a limit, like a capacity for how much your peace gets tested. And so what you're trying to do is when you can, when it feels okay for you, receive as if you are the Divine Mother, which is the most loving, nurturing presence that one could be. So if the conversation goes, oh, I'm having all this trouble and I'm blah, 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 and I'm blah, blah, and they're freaking out and all that thing, instead of immediately jumping into the wisdom of saying, oh, did you know that that's just a story for your learning? This feels too cold, right? So, and I've done it. This is why I'm teaching it. I've done this so many times by accident. It's just the masculine in me is like, boom, I got it. But I have to, hey, settle down, bud. Let mother hear this first. Let mother hear the child. And it's not a child, I'm bigger and older. It's, we're all children of God. It's let the child of God speak to you and see what they have to say, like hear them. And it's just about being present with them. When the masculine's present with them, the masculine's typically going, well, what am I going to say next? The feminine mother is receiving it. So let her receive it in her just pure love. So that when the masculine gets it, the masculine goes, okay, yeah, I get it. We love them. Okay, fine. We love them. We forgive them for whatever they're showing us that we don't like. However, I'm noticing that this has been a recurring thing, and I've keeps bringing it up, and they don't like stop it. So either this is just like how they are, either I'm okay with that or I'm not. And that's how we kind of just navigate that. And we just keep reminding them and ourselves, I'm not okay with this. So like that type of interaction with me just doesn't happen anymore. And it's not that we push them away forever. We don't need to do anything like that. And then there are other situations where like there's people, they're observing that their twin seems to just be off doing whatever. And, they don't know what's going on. It's really entirely impossible to say. Ask them. And if they don't respond, then just, give it to God, because what else are you going to do? There's nothing to do. People ask about like healing them. That doesn't do anything. That's not how it would work, right? They heal them through their own consent. So they're working on whatever they're doing, and it can look so weird. It could be anything. So if they're not a magician, they'll manifest it right into the reality instead of exploring it astrally, for example. Or they'll accidentally do that as a magician, manifest, like that's what I did by accident, essentially. Most of us eventually do that. We start to say things like, as we wake up, today I'll see true. Like claiming that every day is powerful. It brings to you all of your triggers though, which you don't realize. You just want to see the truth of God now, right? You want to see the joy, the peace. so yeah, so that's some of that. Let's see. Oh, there's so much stuff. So many chat things. It's Christmas time. Alien Nation. Yeah, Alien Nation. Literally everyone is like from the stars, right? The soul. It's from the stars, the sun. It's a star. So it's you couldn't be not, like, it just doesn't make any sense. New follower to your channel, really enjoying listening. Thank you for your time. Oh, thank you. K love you, bye. K love you, bye. Sounds like my my son. K love you, bye. I consider truth my religion. Yeah, that's my religion too. Even truth becomes dogmatic as well, though, right? Our own personal truth is like our own dogma. It's like how we define our Sean-ness, right? Sean has his dogma of himself. Like, he doesn't like to appear too dirty before he goes on a stream, or he wears a bracelet with the cross on it, or whatever. Like, it's part of his truth. So even that, right? So then we start to try to lift up and look at like the truth of God, and then integrate both so that like both are okay with each other, right? That's kind of what the whole mythos is about. The whole exploration of soul discovery. And it's not self-aggrandizing like, oh, I'm a god. It's not like that. It's everyone is like that. It's everyone is that. So there is no weirdness to it. It's, wow, this whole thing is evenly distributed for everyone to play in. And part of my job is to just illustrate that a little bit, if I can. And people seem to like it, so I like it. Sarah T says, instead of loaves of bread, I've noticed it manifests as having whatever I need show up at the right time. Yeah, exactly. Free time, connections, financial abundance, information, whatever. Yeah, it just flows. And the more we get out of our own way, which is literally just us thinking it isn't going to flow, that's how we miss the opportunities of the flow, is by thinking it's not. It couldn't not be flowing. We're just presuming based on our past histories of analysis of our history. In the past, I've been damaged in this and this and this. So it seems ostensibly that that's continuing right now, right? But if you really sit and go, am I okay right now? Yeah, I am, right? I am okay. That's what's true. The rest of that is a mythos. And when we take the stories of the gods and the spirits of the gods and begin to build relationships inside, we'll start to hear them, feel them with us, see them, perhaps. There's people telling me that they've been seeing the dragons being rid by the giants, the Jotun, or the Anunnaki, Anak. These were the beings that came here and made us, more or less. So I'm like, wow, you can like just see it in the like the cloud. You see it, you can see it. It's not the cloud you're looking. You can see it above the cloud, like you see it. And they're like, yeah, bro. And I'm like, damn it, I don't see it. Gosh dang it! Like, I'm supposed to see true, you know. But we don't all have the same cities. We don't all have the same gifts. It's what makes it so beautiful. I can't see it, and part of me is like, no, he's making it up, because I didn't want to believe that he could see it and I couldn't see it, and it's just nonsense, right? And I can't wait till I can see something like that. I can't wait. I feel like I used to ride them. I used to talk about that a little bit. And so yeah, it's just really interesting. And as the veil thins, it just makes it so much more accessible. Caleb Ubai says, not sure if I'm wording my question properly, but I'm having some trouble understanding the difference between imaginary, non-existent darkness that does not exist and real negative energy spirits. So a negative energy spirit is not dark. It's light. It's light. It just is a different dressing, has a different costume on, basically. So what is dark and fear and darkness is not, which means it could not be an entity. Couldn't. So the negative path, which we call dark, is because we call it dark because we don't want it. It scares us. And it's unseen. It's like, what is it? I don't even know what it is. The shadow. It's, whoa, spooky. And that's where all the treasure is, basically. To be entirely honest, to go in there with your light, with your torch, and look around and be like, what is all this stuff in here? That's where the real meat and potatoes of things are. And you notice over time that each of these beings has this really unique, usually sorrowful, despairing type of tale, corruption, whatever is going on. And you begin to see the light in them and essentially forgive them as aspect of psyche. And then this cleans up the programming, basically, because those get risen into angels, which represent the 72 Shem and the 72 Goetic demons. It all comes back to that, really, when we're talking about the mastering of the mind. It's those 72 and the 72, which are unified truly as the same beings, like just polar opposites. Getting those beings to break bread with each other, sitting with them. The poet, he wrote, what's his name? You'll probably know, but invite all guests into your home to eat with you and hear of them, right? That's kind of what it's referring to, in part. It's also referring to literally, like, what are people bringing to me? Yes, let's hear what you have to say, but to our limits, right? So negative energy spooks us, but it spooks us because we're thinking it has power over us, and it doesn't. It doesn't have any power over us other than what we give to it. That learning is essentially just letting go of all of our fear, which is done by learning to interact with that Kundalini dragon in however we can manifest that. I like to recommend astral projection, meditation, contemplation, poetry, arts, to investigate this battle of self, to let it culminate in you, let it stir in you, release it into some prose or something, help get it out, without harming anyone. That's basically what I recommend for that process. And in that process, you may have a very mystical experience like I do, just the nature of who I am. Or it may be more mundane seeming, but it's truly the same thing. It's truly the same thing. We can look at it at a very psychological lens and just say we have 72 sort of categories of way we are that's often sort of negative, and then 72 other ones, and we could sort of look at it that way as well, which boil down into these 12 kind of archetypes of the mind, or something that like Jung might say, or I don't know what the actual numbers are, but we could go that way. It's all the same thing. Science just kind of goes, oh, we're going to make new words. I don't like the old ones. Right? Oh, namaste, Kendrick. Thank you. Thank you. I think most people who believe they've met their twin have only met a soulmate, felt a fission of energy and mistook it for a merge when it was simply receiving it back what they gave before. Yeah, it's hard to say. Those stories, they're so unique. Only they could know what it is, really. As observer, we're just a sort of, and I'm not saying don't. It's good to think about these things, to apply them to us. They're an example. They say it's this, and we're like, I'm not sure if it is that. And often people are like saying stuff to me, and I'm like, I don't know, if this doesn't feel quite healthy, but I don't say those things. Because that would be not very nice of me, right? I try to receive as the mother, say, oh, that sounds like you are really close with this individual, or something. Try to affirm what is true, and as compassionately as possible. But this gets me in trouble with people, because people they kind of sometimes want us to lie to them a bit, and they don't even realize it usually. So it's good for us to learn how to navigate a sensitive mind and a sensitive heart, and learn how to bring compassion first. Especially for someone like me, I was always like, I want to tell them the wisdom thing or the truth thing first. I want to inform them of something first. Afterwards, we can hug it out. But now it's time for talking, right? Like, that's sort of my instinct. It's just because I'm used to being more framed as a teacher, and the people around me don't generally see me that way, right? They see me as the kid that, peed his pants and did whatever and got beat up at school and bullied and then whatever, right? That's what I'm that to other people. Or if I was met even a couple of years ago, I'm something else, right? So, I realized, and I think it's really healthy to realize this, so that's why I'm sharing this, is we can only just be our best version of whatever we can fathom to be, and try to be as gentle with ourselves as possible while navigating this mythos and this soul's journey, which is all very, very, very real. But all separation is an illusion. So all illusion is also real, in a way. It's what we have. It's what we play in. It's our drama. It's our theater. It's our muse. It's everything that we are. Is these stories, so that the creator knows itself. And we're coming into the open green. Like, we've already opened it. The guardians, the gate, the green emerald gate guardians opened it already. So it's open. It's ready to go. It's already there. That's the Christ consciousness just bubbling in here. Excuse me. So there's really no real barrier now. That's why I keep cautioning away from all the doing. Spiritual practice and sadhana is great. These things are great, but with the frequencies here, we don't really need it so much anymore. What we could probably do is just some purification with a fast, and then some light meditation, literally, or just contemplation, and start to find these realms really easily. You don't need to take psychedelics, though you can. There was a question today that wanted to talk about that. So, manifesting mind, or mind manifesting psychedelic. I'm not a doctor or physician, and I don't advocate for any type of unhealthy or harmful drug use or anything. So I just want to get that out of the way and say that. However, the question was basically, can we trigger awakenings with these things? And that's, basically their entire purpose, more or less. Healing, healing plant medicine, ayahuasca, or mescaline from peyote or San Pedro, cacti, these things. The stuff that's made in a lab can be used the same way, but usually it just has more side effects and stuff. And usually what this does is it actually shuts off more of the brain. More of the brain is off. If they're under an actual scan, it's as if not much is going on. And they're like, and then after they're like, what happened? And then they're like, I was in the everything. Wow, it was nuts. And the scientists are kind of like, what? right? Because you're in consciousness more. The consciousness is more single focused in the eye, the third eye. So the brain's not processing. It's just, you're just, it is essentially what's happening, as I understand it. And I don't understand it basically at all. So it's a interesting thing. Sarah T says, see a lot of people unnecessarily suffering, clinging to a mental belief. Yeah. Instead of listening to the heart. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to see. I think that the heart, it's a matter really for people to give it to God, just give it to God, because the mind doesn't know. The heart is the soul. The soul is drawn to something. The soul is always drawn to something that it can't find. Always. That's how it works. That's how life works. It's like something that's scarce, something I can't find, until it goes, oh, I'm the thing. Oh. And then it goes, what was even all that dream I just had? I don't even know what that was. Hey guys, guess what? I was just in this place and I used to get like sick. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about, man? You used to get sick? What does that even mean? Like, that's the type of conversation you might have with a being that hasn't had an opportunity to be in a physical, dense body yet. And we go up and down and there and back and up and down and off we go. So some haven't, some have, and then, it's all over the place. But if you talk to them, they're like, wait, you're telling me little other things come inside of you and make you sick and then you could die? Whoa. Right? It's like mind blowing. And these are the types of tales that you'll if you go astral traveling at all and meet with beings, you'll have these conversations. And they're like, it's very, very interesting. And at first you might question if those are real, right? And it doesn't really matter, because it makes sense that they would see it that way. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's just really interesting and beautiful when you have the experience. And I wouldn't even know how to teach those things. So I recommend people learn from other people. That all my stuff's just spontaneous primarily. Just remembered how to do it, and it just happens. And then there is no, usually for me, I don't get to plan it so much. It just happens when it happens for now. And then we start to take reins of that. We start to learn consciously how to turn them on when it's time to offer them in a pure service way. That's when we are really wanting to, generally as souls, tap into some of that infinite power of the Creator to actually bring through something kind of magnificent as a miracle in a more participatory way. But prior to that, the cities just go bloop, bloop, bloop. Things just miracle, just popping around us. I call them light shows. They're nothing but light shows, just because, like, you'll see someone stop. For example, this happened to me. This guy just was like wandered into the street in front of me and the car in front of me. And somehow, like, I could feel this force exit me. The car in front slammed on their brakes and started honking at the guy. And the guy just like kind of like looked at them, and he just looked like he was completely in a zombie daze. And so, basically, I don't know how he didn't get hit. And it has nothing to do with Sean, but it's a miracle that Sean witnesses, right? And also felt like I was involved in it. Like I was close enough to feel it happening, is what I'm trying to say when I say I'm involved. Just close enough to feel what's happening. And so the miracles pop that way and just happen, and you hear people drop little miracles, like they say this little thing, and you're just like, whoa, can't believe they said that, this stranger. Or, the day that I figured out my, some of what my name meant, I told a couple people my name, and they were like, oh, like super interested in my name, because I'm actually super interested in my name at that day. And you're like, wow, just my own interest in myself, in my own name, and I'm Sean, sort of jolly, look at me kind of attitude. with them was just like, oh, yeah, yeah, look at you, Sean. So funny. But these things happen, and they're not done. We realize after, I didn't really do that. It just like happened around me, and it seems to involve me somehow, I guess. But it involves, I guess, everything then, doesn't it? It's all of it. And wow, the hell's going on? A Course in Miracles basically tells you to just ignore it, more or less. Just be like, oh, bravo. I don't know. Yeah, that's a thing. One time I was looking at things and they just went away and I could see through them to the other side of the things. It was like a fence thing. And like, I'm like, where'd the fence go? Oh, good one. I don't see a fence anymore. I can just see through it. Okay. So now it's not like I can walk around and see through things. I wouldn't know how to even do that. And these are like some of the, I call them the tricks. The pride goeth before the fall tricks. Are you gonna just go, oh, I can see through things? I'm gonna try and spy. Whoa, whoa, whoa. If you want to do that, like that's kind of like what some of these things are. They're little tricks to get you. Ooh, ooh. Look how powerful I am. I can see through something that isn't real. Whoa. That kind of happens as the cities open up. It's part of the process of like how much can the being deal with without getting corrupting in itself and falling astray of its path. When we fall astray of our path, we tend to be disabled somehow from continuing what we were trying to do. Somehow it just stops because we're not continuing along the journey the way that we really wanted to as a soul. That's why the mythos is so important. So important. You can find it in modern tales as well. Like looking at different modern people that have come and gone recently, and you can see the same tales playing out. And I just happen to recommend looking to the stars and looking to the beings in the stars, and also looking to all of the ancients and the old gods here. All of that intertwined together is really the same thing, just at different phases of consciousness expansion. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about shapeshifters as well, because they have a bad rap and it really grinds my gears. That's what I am. That's what Karnunos was. That's shapeshifter. It's the ability to bring any spirit into the vessel, let that spirit take over, let that spirit run the business for a minute. That's what the shapeshifting is. It's like basically the wizard's toolkit. It's the Allfather's toolkit, as I see it. That's because of where I come from, right? As a soul, and then as the walk-in as well, there's like different aspects that get braided together of like Sean and all that. So Sean had went off to healing, and then basically this other entity held space, and then Sean started to come back into frame. This is where I walked around like kind of like, whoa, blissed out for 7 days or so. Sean wasn't there really. He was just going, he could notice the experience. And then the intertwining came back because we decided, okay, we're going to have Sean like come back. But he went away for a time to just like kind of heal. Portion just watched because their portion's always connected there. But they go to a place of stasis and then it comes back and it's like, do we want to get entwined here? And take this story of the walk-in with the Sean and meld that, or is Sean done? And so we decided to meld. That's the coherence and cohesiveness. It's so beautiful. It's indescribably beautiful, the process that happens. And then when it happens, though, we often aren't aware that it's happened because the veil's still there usually. It may not be, but if the veiling is still there, and also the world around us just constantly tells us that it's not possible. The ego of the world tells us how crazy it all is constantly. And, it's the type of people that like get upset with children for playing, right? Like, what is that? And I don't mean just, I mean, if they're playing poorly, whatever, right? I mean, if they're just like exploring something and people yell at them, it's just weird. And it's just because that basically people have been taught to think in boxes. Choose the most, Sarah T says, choose the most intense psychedelic experience I've had. Rainbows shooting out of head and everything. I was sober as a gopher. Yeah, exactly. That's the exact point I like to make too. Thank you for bringing that up. None of that stuff's needed at all. So take that for what it is. Some do it and some don't. Like, do what you will, right? Do what you want. Do what's healthy for you is what I would recommend, I guess. And you know, like if you actually are going to go do that, I would probably see a doctor about it first. Right? I'd probably recommend that. If you don't feel like you're opened up, that means you're really rooted in the body already, and these types of physical things affect you differently than someone that's already wide open. So like, you know, the person that's ready for that is ready, and they'll know if they're ready. So we trust the people, but and these types of chemicals and things aren't generally things that people are like getting addicted to. They're not they're not that type of experience. Most people generally, of course, they can be. But good evening, Dina 777. I like that, D777. Hello, Tassel. Hello, amazing being. Thank you. So what else did I want to say? The last thing that I talked about a little bit was the naming, soul naming, before in one of the other streams. And we get into this place where we notice the soul imprinting has correlations with the naming, the mythos of the soul, and then the naming conventions that go with it. So Sean means God is gracious, Albert is nobility, and then Kelly refers to my Irish heritage. And basically all the way back into the Druids and into the goddess Calais, who was the goddess of snow. And the I think seen also as sort of the bringer of spring. We had to change our name for various reasons and stuff like that. So that right there is very indicative of, okay, there's an imprint here, a Celtic journey soul thing happening there. And then there's more layers after that, and different deeper things and older things and hidden treasures in there. That's why I recommend, and Tassel does this a lot, is journeying, doing these things. To try and discover these things, but going in with intention to discover self. Not intention necessarily to discern what to do in the world, because like I was trying to say earlier, the doingness of things is we're meant to more orient into the beingness of things, which may include doing, but we're being it because it is what we are, instead of doing it because it's what we want to become, a different orientation. Beings of the heart and doings of the mind is the way I would frame it. So you can be doing and being, right? It's a tricky, weird thing for the mind to wrap its head around, so I don't recommend trying to do that. I recommend trying to be. Oh my God, I'm a dummy. I love it. I think that's about time for me. An hour. I feel totally bouncy from the energy now. And you guys have been amazing. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the questions and the talk, and this has been a fun one. If it inspires any other thoughts, leave them in the comments, and I'll try to get to them. And I really just am very grateful. So thank you so much. I hope you guys all have a beautiful night, and I'll be on tomorrow, probably tomorrow around noon or so.